Hello, everyone. It's Mark Olthe here again, back in another edition of the Canadian Immigration Live Q&A right here on the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel, as well as Facebook. Now, you guys will probably have seen that we had a little bit of issues with our thumbnail, which was a YouTube problem. And I'll be honest, I was freaking out a little bit because I was really concerned that the live stream wouldn't happen today. But I think we're good. It looks like people are connecting in, which is fantastic. We've got here, Banu says, I meant so far no draw. Okay, and I know there's lots of people posting comments. One of the main ones is, what's happening with the express entry process? I think many of you saw as I flip my screen over here, and I'm going to try to get this lined up right at the beginning. Okay, we'll put that there so you guys can see the screen well. And then I will move this up to the point where it matches there. I think that's good. Okay, those of you know that there was a round of invitation that happened yesterday, September the 14th, where they only did 2,000. Oh, and I'm a little bit off kilter here. Got to also fix my image here. There's nothing like working and having some, there we go. Okay, let's go with that. I think that's a little bit better for me here. There I am. Now you guys can see me. Okay, so with this, you can see that there was a draw, like I said, and they only extended 2,000 invitations, which meant the score was really high. And of course, I had a client that was 460, and yeah, so now he could have had a few more points if he'd gone and gotten some of his foreign work experience and put that into his profile, but well, we didn't believe that it was going to do that. So as always, there's a lesson to be learned, you guys, from this. And the lesson is that at all times, no matter what the circumstances are, do everything in your power to maximize your CRS score as much as possible, because you never know what is going to happen. And I think you guys can see that we're all in the midst of this election that Monday will wrap up for us. We'll see where this goes, if there's an impact on just the volumes that immigration is dealing with. And now they have so many applications, so many backlogged overseas, so many inside Canada with that big, massive draw on February the 13th, as well as the TR to PR pathway. So they've got a lot of processing issues that they're dealing with. And you guys have seen it's a complete nightmare trying to communicate with them. And then layer on top of it, the whole Afghan crisis and the inability to even speak to people. So I'm going to talk about all of that in a second. Okay, so let's give a shout out to some people that are tuning in here. Wazim says he's waiting for the CEC mega draw. Well, good luck with that. We'll see what happens there. Berzerius, always post where you're tuning in from. I love to see the locations. Reshmi says, yep, it's depressing. I know it is, you guys. Hang in there. Let's see what happens with the election. At the end of the day, I'm waiting patiently myself to see what is going to happen. And I think all of us are speculating that, like, the reason they're shrinking these down is because they have a ton of applications that they're working through, apparently. All of you guys that are trapped outside, that are waiting for your applications to start moving forward, I can tell you that they are moving forward with applications, but they're going slow. So if you're overseas, the only thing you can be is patient. There's nothing that's going to affect it other than just waiting. Many of you also are fully aware of the problems trying to communicate with them. And now when you call the call center or you submit documentation, when you call, they don't want to talk to you, because they told us just yesterday in our meeting, I think that there were 30,000 calls that they were getting every day, and a vast majority of them are related to the Afghan crisis. And so they're trying to triage and place priority on the things that are most important for them, but it's affecting everybody else. So I'll be honest, I've been pretty disappointed lately with immigration. I've been pretty disappointed with how they've managed everything. There's only so long and so far that you can keep putting the blame on the pandemic. And then now to say the whole Afghan crisis is causing all these other problems. Well, I've got issues with that as well too. And there's a big, huge political component to everything that the government does as well in the midst of an election. So, client service has really, really been tanking. And in our call yesterday, there wasn't a lot of explanations other than we apologize. We're sorry that it's happening this way. So I'll keep you guys posted as more information trickles out. And I know lots of people are going to be asking questions about what is the impact of this draw, a small CEC. Are they ever going to do another FSW draw? Yes, they are. And it's possible with the changes that they're projecting, incorporating knock codes and things like that. We've talked about that in the past. And at this stage, we don't see anything happening. So until they actually post it, until we see it live, I'm not going to talk about it here because it's pure speculation. When it comes to people, the vast majority of you that are Outlanders are wanting to know where things are at. And so I'm trying to give you at least as much knowledge as I get, which is limited from immigration, as to where things are at. But I know many of you are saying they're not processing at all. Well, that's not true. They are, but it is truly going slow, and it depends on the country. Okay, Thesura, good to see you, my friend. Past subscriber to the course, and big shout out to everybody who subscribed to the recent course and is right in the midst of our masterclass right now. I had a few people that subscribed to it, and I do still have it open. This is the last day that I'm going to allow people to register and jump in to join us. But it's a really, really great group of people. We've had great discussions Monday and Tuesday. We've also decided I have a family commitment that's coming up on Thursday. Every evening at 5 p.m. we do the masterclass, the live session, where I answer every question that people post as well as in the group. And then because I have a family commitment on Thursday, we're pushing all the days forward a day. So day 4 is on Friday, and then day 5 is Saturday morning at 7 a.m. So we are actually going to have a little bit of an extra long Q&A on Saturday morning. And so there is still room for people to connect in here and to subscribe to the course. Everything is all of the past lives that we did on Monday and Tuesday are all embedded in the private Facebook group where you can have access to it for life. And I also want to point out that all of the material, if I go into my library here and I open this up, all of the material in our course right here is available for life. So whether you're ready to submit your profile now or you're waiting a couple months, all of this, the materials, all 56 lessons that we have here, the whole course is all available and accessible for life. So it's just the master class where you have the in-person one-to-ones with me that are that will come to an end on Saturday. But even those and all the discussion in the Facebook page will all be there for you guys. So big shout out to all those who have subscribed. And I guess just back to what triggered it, it was Thesura who was a past subscriber to one of the courses earlier in this year. So big shout out. Nimal, I'm doing awesome. Good to see you. Wazim says mega draw of CEC happens. Okay, well, I don't see it quite yet, but we'll see what happens. Good to see you, Amit, from down in Virginia. Okay, I'll bring this up here, okay? Reluctant fundamentalist. Okay, it'd be great if I knew your actual name. So remember, and this is something that I want all of you guys to understand, okay? It really, really sucks how the pandemic has impacted processing. It really does. But I want you to carefully look at other countries, okay? And then I want you to reevaluate what you're saying right here. When it comes to the federal skilled worker, remember, anyone who's applying to come to Canada, there is no guarantee ever that you have the ability or the right to apply. And so immigration can make changes. They can decide to do whatever they want. There was a time a number of years back where they had so many people in the pool that were backed up through the federal skilled worker program that it was taking 5, 6, even up to 7 years for those applications to process. And people would submit their applications and they would wait and never hear from immigration for years. Well, immigration decided to just cull out all of them, just return all of the applications, return all the fees, and just start fresh. And so we're not at that stage yet. But remember, please remember that the government and the immigration department can really do whatever they want. And no one has a guarantee of anything within this process. And when I look at what's happening in so many other countries, especially I look at all of the Indian clients that I have who've sunk so much time and effort into Australia and now have no options. I look at those same clients who sunk schooling and H-1B time into the US and have no options. And I know things are not great in Canada, but please understand that unlike those countries, the options are still there as we work to climb out of the pandemic, the effects of it and everything. So there's always the reality for this reluctant fundamentalist, and this is where I'm going to put my immigration officer kind of hat on. You don't have to come to Canada, right? You have a choice whether or not you want to. Canada owes you virtually nothing when it comes to applying. Those of you who've submitted applications and are actually in the pool, my heart goes out to you because they've taken your money and things have drug on, and there is some obligations that are incurred because of it. But when it comes to the actual outland draws, Canada can do whatever they want with those. So you always have the ability to choose whether or not you're even going to pursue Canada. And maybe for you, reluctant fundamentalist, you say, look, this is just not worth it. Well, then that's fine. That's totally your call. And no one could have predicted what we have here, but this is just the reality. And as far as I'm concerned, when I look at what's happening in so many other countries in the world, Canada, as far as I'm concerned, is still number one, even though the whole world has just really, really become so locked down with anti-immigrant mentality and everything. Canada's doors, despite everything that's happening, they still have a desire to bring immigrants into the country. So that's basically what I tend to focus on. But in no way, shape, or form am I minimizing the impact that it's had on so many people overseas who've had applications pending, that have put your lives on hold. My heart goes out to you. But remember, there's no guarantees or promises with anything. All right, let's move on here. Okay. ASHU, spousal open work permits. Now, ultimately, these have been, they come in different shapes and forms. So if you're talking about a spousal open work permit that's associated with, say, a work permit application, or if you're a foreign worker in Canada, or you're a student in Canada, this all depends upon the country in which your spouse is coming from. And so sometimes people are already in Canada and have submitted applications with their spousal sponsorship application through the In Canada class. Those ones we know are upwards of 7-8 months to get those issued. Overseas, it literally depends upon the country. And I think many of you know, and I'll just flip over here and I'll just share this quick so you guys can see it. So if we go to IRCC processing times, there is limited data when it comes to open work permits. But if you go here and you look temporary residence, and then you pull up work permits, and so work permit from outside Canada, you can see here that there isn't a real big distinction in terms of what you're doing, but you can choose the country. So this is really where I go, and the data, sometimes you just have to take the best that you can and try to rely on it. So you can see if it's India, it's listed as 28 weeks, and it was last updated yesterday. So this is the source that you go for processing times, this website right here. And yes, there are some aspects of it that you can trust and some you can't. But the more recent it's been updated, they do try to give a generic kind of for 80% of the applications where the processing times are. So that's where I would direct you to, ASHU. All right, Berzerius, good to see you. And Wojciech, hey, from Ireland. Wojciech's in my class right now. And it's really, really great to see you. He's a member of the master class right now. So thanks for tuning in. It's great. Big shout out. And yeah, it's great to have you in watching the live one. And lots of people, no FSW draw ever. Well, I don't think that's the case, but hang in there. And I can tell you, Clara, we are going to have a massive celebration when the draw happens. So the momentum is building, the anticipation is there, and when that no program specific draw happens, we're going to have a massive online party. Hang in there. Hang in there. Good evening to you, Divine. Good to see you. Reshmi, good to see you from Delhi. Zacharias here. FSW Lives Matter. All right. Mohammed, hello to you. And Obazi, Sonia, good to see you. Okay, this is great. Now remember, at Harsh, it's not me releasing it, okay? So when it comes to passport requests, this is entirely on IRCC. And yeah, the reality is I don't have a lot that I can say about this other than it's moving slow. And in your case, at Harsh, I'll tell you one thing. If I flip over here and I look at this is, in my mind, for you, a positive indication. So the fact that they are pulling fewer people on these draws, and remember, if you go back historically and you look at these previous rounds and you look to see how far back they only drew 2,000 on a CEC or a no program specified draw, if we go back here, aside from the PNPs, they don't count, but you look at all the other previous draws, you can see here, this was a makeup. So they did it 2 weeks back to back to make 6,000. So I don't really count that as an anomaly. This is more 6,000 collectively. But if you go back through all of these draws, and we even go back here, and there's the massive draw right there. But you go back, you can see very rarely have they ever gone down to 2,000 in one draw. And so for me, that is an indicator that they are now focusing on the ones that are in the queue that are waiting to be processed. And they're not pulling more people in until they get this current massive backlog sorted out. So in my mind, those trends are actually positive for you, especially those that are languishing, waiting for your permanent resident visa and your passport request. Okay, let's see here. Sashin jumps in. He says, in the TR2PR pathway, I uploaded the wrong fee receipt. Should I able to do something now? My medicals and biometric is also updated already. Thanks in advance. Okay, Sashin, one thing we do know is that there were some people who just applied under the wrong category. In other words, when people saw that the international grad category was full, that the essential worker category was full, some people, I'm assuming, tried to apply under the French language one and then submit an IELTS report. And then, of course, those are getting refused. When you apply through the wrong category, you're going to get refused. When it comes to this, I'll be honest, I think you still have a shot, Sashin. Now, when you say you uploaded the wrong fee receipt, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. If you uploaded the wrong amount, I think you still have a shot because they have been unbelievably facilitative. And those of you who are struggling saying, why is it taking so long for immigration to give me my AOR for the TR2PR pathway? There's a reason, because they are being so forgiving with people requesting additional documents that it drastically increases the processing time for all TR2PR pathways, because they're not refusing applications like they do with Express Entry. I could tell you if that was an Express Entry application, now remember, you can't get the fee wrong with Express Entry because it's built into it. But if you'd included the wrong fee receipt, if you could, in the context of Express Entry, boom, you would be done. And that's the cruel nature of Express Entry that results in faster processing, throwing the pandemic out. Traditionally, that's what allows for faster processing, because any error, they just return the whole package and voila, it's processed. Now you have to start over. But for the TR2PR pathway, they are being forgiving. They're being kind. Largely, I think, because they rushed so fast to get it out that people like you were scrambling so fast to submit that clearly mistakes are made. So there's been very few refusals. But clearly, if you fall under the wrong program, you apply under one of the French-speaking categories of the TR2PR pathway, yeah, you're going to get your application refused. Okay, here's a great one. I'm really glad that Fayez has pointed this out. So he says, I've tried calling IRCC and since the last 2 weeks, and every time they say that we are not answering any status updates, they are not. And I just saw, let's see if I can pull this up. I'm going to go to the Teams call that I had with IRCC, and they posted, I think it's here. Let's see if we can share this. So they shared this in our call yesterday, and I'll share it with you guys. I'll flip the screen over. So they shared this screen, and you can see right here, we're deeply concerned with the rapidly evolving situation in Afghanistan. To respond to the high volumes of inquiries related to this crisis, we shifted resources in our client support center. This will impact our response times to some inquiries. Well, the reality is it's not just some. It says we are currently focusing on these priorities only. So you can see crisis in Afghanistan, vulnerable, emergency, urgent circumstances. You need to tell us about a change in your circumstances, which directly impacts your application, like marriage, birth of a child, or similar. You need to submit documents. You're changing your contact information. You're withdrawing your application. And if your request isn't in the list of priorities above, They say, we'll add any attachment you send to your file as needed, but we will not reply to your request or even send a confirmation that we've completed it. And it may take longer than usual to complete. So our agents do not have access to more information about your case or processing times than you can access online. If you don't have a priority inquiry, basically it says, too bad, so sad. So this is something, Fayaz, that is happening across the board to everyone. So you guys are no longer going to be able to request status updates through the web portal and through the phone. And until this situation with Afghanistan settles down, they just don't have the bodies to answer, and they've decided that that's a greater priority. So it is what it is, right? This is the government that we have. This is the department that we have and we're dealing with. And there's not a lot that you can do about it. But Fayaz, your experience is exactly the same experience that every single one of us, including us counsel, immigration lawyers, etc. Although I do have contact information for all of the heads of the departments because I interact with them on behalf of the Canadian Bar Association, but I don't bring my own personal client matters to them because it wouldn't be appropriate. So I'm in the same boat as all of you guys dealing with the harshness. And yes, I will gladly post the broken hearts. I will, because it has impacted so many people. Bokang from Africa, great to have you connecting in. Okay, let's see if we can get to your question, Elareza. So he says, last week I asked a question. Unfortunately, you didn't respond it. This week, hope to receive a response. Seriously, then just post your question. We'll see if we get to it. Okay, Ralph, great to see you up in Edmonton, former client and really, really good friend. It's great to see you. Arshdeep here, travel ban for India. It is what it is, you guys. It is what it is. Until things get sorted out, it's status quo. All right. Noor, good to see you. Akashdeep says, got an ITN yesterday's CEC draw. Let's see. Oh, here, I got to turn this on. There we go. I had my sound turned down. So there's an applause for you. Congratulations. So you are one of the 2,000. That's awesome, Akashdeep. It's great to hear that. So happy for you. Okay, moving forward. Okay, Vimalram says, hope all is well. Question, looks like Ottawa is the only center that's been really slow at processing applications. Any idea when they might speed up a bit? You know what? It literally comes down to the struggles that they're continuing to have with the backlogs, with the social distancing that was in place. And, this fourth wave that's coming around again is going to impact. And until this pandemic is fully through, until the vaccinations are across the board, until the variants are dealt with, we're going to continue to see these issues. And I personally never would have dreamed that we would still be in this situation. You know, we're closing in. It's September. You know, we're a year and a half out, and pretty soon, before we know it, we're going to be closing in on 2 years. So, oh boy, yeah. And other people are claiming, yeah, they're complaining, yes, it was a high draw. And yes, for those of you who are asking those questions, the draw yesterday was definitely high. And just to clarify for everybody, if we look at this right here and we scroll up, actually I'll go up one more screen here, you'll see it was because of the low number of people that were drawn that we had a 462. And it also relates to the fact that the last CEC draw happened almost a full month right here, August the 19th to September the 14th, a whole month later. So that's why we had this big jump from 403 all the way up to 462. And if either of those variables were different, if there were a larger number drawn and they would have drawn it every 2 weeks, then the numbers would have been lower. Okay. And Emil, yes, there's lots of people that are so frustrated. I don't have an OINP nomination because I maximize my score. And this is always the trade-off, right? And you just don't know when the OINP, what the ranges they're going to pull people from. You don't know what Express Entry is going to do. There's a lot of uncertainty with it, but still, notwithstanding that, for my purposes, I look at I look at Express Entry, and this is how I deal with it. If I know that I have a chance, for example, if you're in Canada, under no circumstance would I ever not try to maximize my score. So CEC, 100%, that's what I would do. If I'm outside of Canada and I can see that if I have a score of 470, I'm not going to get an OINP, then maybe I would do some things, if possible, to get it down into the range where, and I shouldn't say 470, if I had a score of, let's say 467, where the outland or the no program specified draws have not gone down to 467, and wow, I can't even remember how long it's been. In that situation, then maybe I would consider keeping in that range. But it's super, super, Emil, this is a real gamble, and it's hard to know. And for my purposes, at least as an immigration lawyer, it's, who could have ever predicted the big 170, the big draw where the lowest CRS was 75 back in February the 13th? No one could have identified that draw 176 was going to happen. And so you just don't know. There were so many people that would have probably had profiles in if they'd known that they could have been drawn at that low of a level for CEC. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and it's virtually impossible to predict every possible eventuality. So for my purposes, I will almost always go to try to maximize my score and to give myself the greatest chance of success. Okay. All right. Here's your question being answered, Alareza. I want to know that if the French language certificate that is issued by the Ministère de l'Immigration de la France et de l'Intégration, okay, I'm a Portuguese speaker, not a French speaker, is acceptable for TR to PR pathway. The TR to PR pathway is very, very clearly laid out. You have to understand that any of the economic programs under the federal process are all non-French programs. So right from the get-go, to answer your question, is that, and I'm assuming your French language certificate, you're asking if that one is good for the TR to PR pathway. They specifically spell out which programs, which language assessments are acceptable. TCF, TEF. Now, whether or not they accept what you're talking about here, that's a good question. I don't know if I can answer that one. You can go and you can search and see what language tests are acceptable. But at this stage anyways, the TCF and the TEF are the ones that I'm familiar with. But that one, I'll be honest, Alareza, I have not heard if this one is acceptable for the TR to PR pathway. Remember that you have to be and show an intention to reside outside the province of Quebec. So as you're going forward, that's the one barrier that many, many Francophone speakers face. If you're in Quebec right now, you can't be when your application is finalized, or you have to be able to demonstrate that you have a clear intention to reside outside when you become a PR. So you got me stumped here, Alareza, and maybe somebody else knows, but as far as I'm concerned, if I go here, and let's just do a quick flip here, and I go language, equivalency, or even language tests. Actually, let's do this. Here's what we'll do. We'll do this together, okay? So TR to PR pathway, when we go into here and it says how to apply, right here, it will pull up within this process the general application forms, and there's always let's see if we can find the guide here. Form, schedule, family supplementary, barcode. Doesn't look like it's here. Make sure you're eligible, get ready to apply, download form, submit. Okay, the instruction guide. Okay, here we go. So if we go to the instruction guide, and then I'm going to search for language, and let's see what comes up here. Let's see if we can find proof of language proficiency. When you apply, you need to prove that you meet or exceed the minimum language requirements for your stream. You will need to submit a valid language test to prove your ability to apply. Let's see if we have a description of the tests. Let's see here. Okay, so let's say we're going through French workers. Let's see, language requirements. Find out more about language tests. And this is exactly what I do every time, guys. I go back right to the site and I scroll down. So let's see if there's any specific instructions in here. Language courses, take the test you can take. Okay, so here we go. Haha. Right. Okay, took me a while to figure this, but this is right in the program guide for the TR to PR pathway. And I would encourage all of you to make sure you read this forensically, every single aspect of it. So English, these are the accepted tests. For French, you've got the TEF Canada, you've got the TCF Canada, and that is it. So the only accepted tests based on the instructions for the TR to PR pathway are those tests. Hey, there we go. Took a while to answer the question, but because you didn't get it answered last time, I wanted to do it. So there you go. Okay. Yep. Banu says if they draw only 3,000, the score will be over 500. You bet. That's exactly the case. Okay. Mark, have you had any chance, any news regarding the AOR for TR to PR? It has been so long. How many do you have for the people you help? Okay. So remember, Martha, first off, okay, I took one client, one only. All right. And then everybody else, the other 350, almost 400 people that went through the TR to PR pathway course in that Facebook group, they've been constantly celebrating each other, getting their PR essentially. And so the people that took the course, by and large, were in that first cohort because they knew exactly what to expect. And I gave them complete and total instructions on how to file it. They got it filed correctly. And many, many, many of them are already permanent residents of Canada because they were in the first part. But personally, my one client just completed his medical for Mexico and uploaded that. He had a big family. It took us a little bit longer to file it, but he's totally got his acknowledgement of receipt. The reason, like I indicated before, and I don't need to repeat myself too much, but Martha, the reason that it's taking longer is because they're being kind to people. And many, many people that have deficient information in their packages are being given an opportunity to fix it. And when that happens, it's very slow. So for many of you, I don't expect you to get your acknowledgements of receipt until the end of the year at the earliest. Obviously, they're coming out, all the time they're coming as they continue to move forward in process. But remember as well that visitor visas are now possible to come to Canada, and all of the officers that were traditionally doing the visitor visas were assigned to process the TR to PR pathway. And so now they're having to be pulled back. And many of those officers as well have also been reassigned to work on the Afghan problems. So those are all factors that play into, the acknowledgments of receipt. But Martha, I considered it actually negligent myself for a lawyer or a consultant to take on more people than one. And even if you have a large staff, the reality is lots of problems could have existed, even delays with getting applications filed. So I'm an ethical person, and I only took one client that I worked directly with myself. And within our firm, Alicia, one of my other lawyers, took a client, and that was it. And then I worked all through the course to teach people, as many as I could, how to do the process. And I think a lot of you guys probably are aware that the TR to PR pathway for the Francophone is still open, as well as the healthcare. That cap hasn't filled. So if you fill those categories and you want to still purchase the course, you can still do it. Because I am not doing the actual master class itself anymore with the course, I've reduced the fee. If you go to see the courses, I've reduced the fee down to 50%, but you still get access to everything in the group. All right. There you go, Martha. Good question. These are really good questions today, guys. Okay. Bonjour, Noor. Good to see you. Okay, Rajinder, how long is the LMI application taking to process for a foreigner? An unbelievable long time. What we are now getting reports for from ESDC is that their system is falling apart. The online filing for the LMIA has got glitches in it, and there are times where officers themselves are locked out from the system. And so the processing times for LMIAs, also in our recent call with immigration, ESDC was on the line. And let me just pull up here and I'll show you this one. Okay. And once again, this is straight from the meeting that I had with immigration. I will share my screen with you, Rajinder, and you can see right here, roughly this link right here, labor market impact assessment application processing times. You can go here and get a general idea of how long it's taking to process applications. So personally, I don't think this is 100% accurate, but they're claiming that high wage streams are 34 business days. So that does not include Saturday, Sunday, okay? But the reality is only the global talent stream are they trying to meet the 10-day business standard that they've been attempting to process. Everything else, well, it just is what it is. These are general kind of guidelines. And if you look down here to the bottom, you can see this was last updated on August the 6th. And then over the last few, I would say few weeks, I've heard lots of reports and experiences with LMIAs taking a long time and officers indicating that they were having problems with glitches in their system. So, wow, the money that was allocated in the last budget towards modernization of the immigration systems, wow, I sure hope that they get those systems set up, because it's been a nightmare for everybody. Okay, hello Sunday from Nigeria, good to see you. Noor's over in Algeria. We've got Maharshi's in Toronto. Krishna is waiting for the tech draw in Ontario. Oyakola is over in Toronto as well. Good to see you, Venetia. Hello. And we've got Rodrigo, hola, over in Brazil. Muito bom velo. All right. Simran Jat is over in Vancouver. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, and I can see you guys are still asking, yeah, what about the India flight ban till September the 21st? Are they going to open? We'll just have to wait and see. It's status quo where it is. We're getting closer, and it really comes down to the situation in India. That's really what it comes down to. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. And remember to put a Q in front of your questions. Okay, Alicia says, hi, Mark, for TR to PR pathway, they said it's first come, first serve, but people who applied after me received AOR, but still I didn't. Do you know why it's like that? Largely, it's like that, Alicia, because different officers process at different speeds. And officers that have been assigned files to process, some get through them quicker than others, which results in alterations between the AORs being sent out. And they're all different. And so there are absolutely fluctuations. Some people, when they're going through to do, when they're actually setting up to make sure everything's in place, some people that have dependents inside Canada, some people have dependents outside Canada that are included within the applications. All of those can have an impact on when the AOR is received. Okay, we've got Gail over from Belgium. Hello, Gail. Good to see you. Yes, it's awesome to have you connect as well. Okay, Alarisa, if you look at the guide for the TR to PR pathway, you'll also see that they instruct you to do your best efforts to get that medical exam. Because if you're looking to go through the Francophone program, you want to do the best that you very, very can to get the medical. Now, remember, the whole process of these programs, if you're looking at TR to PR pathway, is that you're in Canada. And if you are in Canada, then some countries are exempt from medical exam. You're in Canada and you have to obtain the medical if you have not obtained one previously. And but in my experience, I always go forward and try to do the best I can to just get the medical done. It might be that you're waived from the requirement because you've already completed one in Canada, but that's a discussion that you and I would have to have. I'd ring the bell and tell you to slide over, book a consult, and I can sort out all of your questions, because it looks like you have a lot about the TR to PR pathway. Okay. Okay. This is an interesting thing. So this is a kind of a practical question, I guess. I say practical because there's a lot of speculation out there that immigration with their new system, and I want to also point something to you guys. If you have not watched this video, excuse me, I'm going to pull this one up. And I'm going to flip over here to my channel. Okay. And if you, so this is the live that we've got right now, but if you go here and you scroll down to the playlists and you click on, I think we've got it here, Immigration Nation right here. I'll pause that one. Let's see here. So that's the last one I did with Alicia. Bear with me here. I love the negatives. I love when people put thumbs down. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Okay, view full playlist. So when you go here, you will see why your visa application to Canada can be refused, the Chinook system. This, with Will Tao, this video is an absolute must for those of you who are applying for study permits or temporary resident visas or work permits, because this is really the system that they're starting to roll out to try to process as many applications as possibly can be processed in the shortest period of time. And the reality is it's resulting in some pretty harsh results. So is it true that student visa applications from students who already have a master's are sure to get rejected. One of the factors that they look at is if how this education you're looking to pursue is going to advance your career opportunities in your home country. And one of the things they look at is if you already have a master's and then you're coming to take a program that's a lesser credential, they're going to say, well, how is this diploma or this one-year certificate actually going to improve your job prospects in your home country? So is there a hard and fast rule that if you have a master's, it's absolutely going to get rejected? No, it isn't. But I'll tell you, the chances of it getting refused are astronomically higher if your education agent or your immigration consultant or whoever's helping you is not going to unbelievable lengths with you to help you truly justify in your education plan, not just some general kind of goofy one that they use for every client that they take, but a specialized one that shows how the education you're taking is not available in your country, will help to increase your chances of getting a better job when you come home. That's really what's driving the ship. So hard and fast rule, guaranteed rejection if you have a master's, no, but at the same time, it does make things astronomically more difficult. All right. Okay. EC says, watching from Calgary. Nice. Oh, let's see right here. That's what I wanted to hit. Okay. You're very welcome. Says, thanks for answering my question last week. Got your PR approved after 1 year and 20 days under CEC. Your channel has been very informative during the wait times. Thank you. I really appreciate that, EC. Okay, we've got Joe down in Arizona. Navdeep, good to see you. Yeah, Dr. Harkapar Saini, this is something that we're just waiting. We don't have any information. That's one thing when it comes to draws. No one knows with 100% certainty exactly when those draws are going to happen. There's lots of speculation, and you look at the circumstances that are occurring at the borders. You look at the patterns in the past. You look at everything from the types and quantities of draws that have happened previously, all to try to guess when you think it might happen. And personally, I think we're going to have one here in the next little while. I do personally. But you can see them starting to shrink down. And the reality is they've got a lot of overseas applications that they're working through. The Afghan situation is causing even further delays. And so we're definitely not out of the woods. Okay. Hi, Mark. Hope you're well. Could somebody go to Canada while? Looks like Jason pushed the button too quick. Maybe. We'll see if Jason got his question in again. But I think probably can you go to Canada while your application is being processed, your express entry? There's no hard and fast rule that says you can't, but if you're in a visa required country, if you have a profile submitted or a PR application in the queue, sometimes officers will use that as an indicator that you do not have temporary intent, an intention to come temporarily and then go home because ultimately you want to be a PR. Now, they can't rely on that exclusively, but it is a factor that comes into play, and that may be what you're asking. Okay, Hisham from Egypt. Oh, Hisham. Last March 18th, 2020, my wife and I, for our 25th wedding anniversary, were planning a trip to Israel, to Egypt and Jordan. And we were going to go to Egypt first on March 18th. We were scheduled to fly, and it all got canceled. So I got a warm spot right here in my heart for Egypt. One day I'm going to go there, check out the pyramids, check out just the Valley of the Kings, all that amazing, amazing stuff. Okay. Okay, Emmerich Paul says from Edmonton, got the e-Coper from TR to PR pathway file submitted at 10:22 p.m. Yes. Oh, sorry, 10:22 a.m. In the morning, which is 12:22 in their time. So 22 minutes essentially. Okay. Oh, great. Fairbanks. That's awesome. My brother, I think some of you, I've talked about this before. My son in, September the 27th, he will start his preparations to serving a mission for our church, which is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and some people refer to us as Mormons. But my son is headed down to Santiago, Chile. We're keeping our fingers crossed that he'll be able to go, because I think October the 1st, there's some indication that hopefully the border will open up in Chile, and he'll be able to go down there and have that wonderful experience, learn Spanish, just serve and just do all he can to help the wonderful people in Chile. But in Fairbanks, my brother actually served his mission up in Alaska. So that was one of the places that he lived and served as a Mormon missionary. So Fairbanks, Alaska. Very, very cool. Okay. Yeah. And I think there we go. So that's Jason. I think I got your question there. Sakshi, good to see you from India. Muhammad, if someone applies for a study permit while his express entry is still in process, post AOR, and then the study permit gets rejected, will that rejection negatively impact the EE application? No, not in any way, as long as everything you put in there was accurate, true, correct. Just because they refused it, because they're jerks in refusing it, it doesn't impact on your express entry in any way. Good afternoon, Jagdish. Good to see you. When the travel restrictions lift, Elise, I'm definitely going to try to get around and do a world tour. That's what I want to do, to go to all of the cities, the major cities, of all of the people, where most of the people are coming through, and set up a big auditorium and do an awesome, fun presentation. That's what I'm really looking forward to doing. And so I would absolutely love to come to Cape Town and put that on my list. Okay. Yeah, so Noor, I don't have any insider stuff. I don't have any insider stuff on that. And I guess it's not long gone at all, but it's definitely been delayed for just because of the backlogs and everything else. So hang in there. Okay. Simran Jot says, Mark's course is the best course I took, TR to PR, and now enrolled in Express Entry. It teaches you from basic to advanced, although I am newly licensed ICRC agent, still learning from him. Awesome, Simran Jot. I'm going to give you a big round of applause. And you know what? There's a lot of people out there, and usually the people that are giving me thumbs down on my videos, actually consultants who were ticked off when I was really upset with the lack of oversight of the regulator for consultants and the crappy consultants that are out there. But I always have immigration consultants that take the course, and I absolutely love it when they do, because then I know that they actually care about learning and elevating the bar with their representation, so that they're being the best that they can be. I have taken courses myself from immigration lawyers and different programs. I've even watched some from experienced consultants who knew more about different areas of immigration than I did when I first started my practice. And so learning, educating, continually trying to stay on top of the changes, that's what the course is all about. And it's interesting because the people that come through the courses, whether it's TR to PR pathway, as Simran Jot can confirm, or the express entry process, we'll hang up that, or the express entry process, the reality is they come out of the course knowing more than most representatives do, who are out there getting paid a fee to represent you. So thanks, Simran Jot. Great to have that shout out. I appreciate it. And obviously, I do not hate consultants at all. But the reality is I hate the bad ones that are just there to exploit and take advantage of people who don't take any time or effort to really stay on top of things and are all about lining their pockets with money. And remember, the difference right now between an immigration consultant and a lawyer is if a lawyer screws up, there is actually a regulatory body that is cruel and heartless that you can make a complaint to, and there's a professional negligence fee that you can access if your life has been harmed because of bad representation from a lawyer. And trust me, that law society is a freaking scary thing for every lawyer, but it just doesn't exist with the consultant association. So I'm hoping that with the changes, there will be more robust oversight of the consultants that really have no business practicing. But individuals like Simran Jot, kudos to you, my friend. Kudos to you. Okay, same thing. Elise, what's the delay with getting GCMS notes? The whole government department is overstretched with everything that they're doing. And it's not surprising that the privacy folks are also overrun. Okay, and this is a good question, okay? This is a good question. So Reshmi says, what do you say? Do you think that the FSW will only return once they do the changes to express entry? It's possible, Reshmi. And I know that a lot of people out there are suggesting that that's the case. And it's possible because remember, the budget specifically allocated resources to do that. And maybe they've decided that they're not going to do it until they're ready to roll it out. Maybe the election is preventing them from actually doing it. And maybe the new government wants to, well, whoever it is, whether the Liberals get back in as a minority or a majority, or the Conservatives get in as a minority or a majority, it's either going to be one of the two. Maybe that's what the department's waiting for everything, the dust to settle with the election. And then they're going to do this big splash on how, they're going to open and modify the FSW, possibly. Okay. Sabia is over in Islamabad. Hello. Okay. What do you think? Why RC hasn't hired extra staff for Afghanistan crisis? Understand, when you're dealing with crises, you're not having new people. Like, you're not going to have a brand new officer to try to work through that. You're just not. And so it's the experienced officers that are dealing with that, and they're being pulled from other files. And so immigration did hire a lot of officers last fall to assist with spousal processing in the family class. And like I said, but often this is what they do. They reallocate, reassign officers to different streams depending upon needs. And so, yeah, I'm sure that they're actively trying to hire, I'm sure, but it just takes time to process. I love this mega draw. This is so awesome. When is the next CEC mega draw? Wazim, I don't know if they're ever going to do another CEC mega draw. George, good to see you. Another past student of the Canadian Immigration Institute. Good to see you, George. Thanks for giving me a shout out. I love when you pop in. Okay, Kanissa says, this is my first time to be here. Thank you for the info. Please tell me about the Express Entry course and what it requires to attend. Thanks. It's pretty simple, Kanisa. For the course itself, all you have to do is go to the Canadian Immigration Institute, and when you click on the link below, there's a link for the September, and it says September 13th. We've had 2 sessions, but today's the last day that I'm going to keep it open. And all of the material, all you have to do is go here, click on Get the Course, and the link in the description will actually take you right here. And then all you have to do is register now. And when you register, then it'll take you right to the cart here, and it's $347 US for access, and we'll let you right in, and that includes the private Facebook group. So let's just see here. I'll just flip back and I'll pull it up in a second here. And the course material is available for life. And then while I'm teaching the master class, and all of the communications that occur are all right here in our Express Entry course, September 13th to December 17th, and all of the past videos and everything, the live streams that we have are all contained in here. And so you can see, I love this because everybody, it's like a family. Everybody helps everybody else. And then when I do the live streams, they're all available right in the stream here, and you can go back and watch them as a recording if you missed them. And there's only been 2. And so there's still going to be Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And those of you who are struggling with making the 5 p.m. time, you can come 7 a.m. is when I'm doing it on Saturday morning, the last one, or you can come in and attend. You can post your questions in the group, and all of that is available. So Kenisa, there's still time. I'd love for you to join us. All right, let's keep zipping through here. Yeah, no more CEC mega draws. I'm kind of on the side of Emil there. Okay, Fred says, I recently got an ITA and in the process of filling out some of the forms. For the address history, I had multiple addresses at the same time. Do you think I can add those both? So usually someone is living in one location. But if, let's say you're living and commuting and living during the week and then coming home on weekends, then I will overlap the addresses. And then I will also, in the letter of explanation and in my course, I have a very detailed explanation of how to deal with this, including a template for how I want everybody to do your letters of explanation to make it as easy as possible for the officer to understand, figure out what you're trying to say, and then make sure that it's all connected. All right. So yeah, so definitely no problem with an LOE, letter of explanation, and then overlapping them if you're truly living in 2 places at the same time. Okay. All right. So Elise says, AOR, October 21st, 2020, medical just expired. What are the chances they get extended? So this literally depends upon whether you're inside Canada or outside Canada. If you're a CEC, you've already, and you've never left Canada, then there's a good chance that they could extend it. A very, very good chance. If you're outside of Canada and it's expired, then there's a good chance they'll ask you to get a new one. Okay. Nessa. Oh, Nessa, good to see you. She said, I subscribed to 2 of Mark's courses, the Express Entry and TR to PR. Yeah, very helpful. And now I am able to help friends too. Oh, and our family just got our PR portal request. Woohoo! That is awesome. Way to go, Nessa. I'm so happy for you. Yeah, Nessa was one of my awesome students, and she was a fantastic contributor in the courses. And that's what's so fun. Everybody that subscribes, by the end, it's like we're a family. And, everybody learns from each other's questions. And I even learn sometimes from what people are sharing, their experiences. And I'm constantly trying to learn more information, get updates, hear about what's happening to other people, and then incorporate it into the course to make it better and better. All right. And also answer questions properly within the Q&A. And you could see the question about the French language test. I always thought it was TF and TCF, but the possibility of maybe it being another one, I needed to go back to the TR to PR pathway to see if that was actually the case. Okay. Rathod says medical and biometrics passed in TR to PR, CEC application. Will IRCC give me COPR under one, or will ask to withdraw one first? Thanks a lot. Usually what happens is they will proceed forward with finalizing an application. Sometimes they will ask you which one you want to be whether you want to cancel the other one. Sometimes that question comes up, but whatever you do, my friend, do not withdraw or cancel anything until immigration is approving the other one. Right? I've seen some people withdraw one because they're already in express entry and they think it's going to go faster than the TR to PR pathway. Well, anything, as you guys know, can happen with express entry. And the problem with express entry is simply this. You often never get a second chance with express entry. You never get a second chance to make sure that your reference letter is correct. You never get a second chance to fix a police certificate that maybe was improperly translated. And then when it comes to express entry, sometimes you never get a second chance to immigrate. And that's period. The draws go up and your CRS score is no longer in that range and your opportunity and dream of coming to Canada is gone. And that's why I've created the course. That's why the express entry step-by-step course and now masterclass that's guided by me, that's why I did it, to help you from missing out, to help you from making those same mistakes that people will make time and time again. Remember, right from the very beginning in 2014, I was on a working group that was providing submissions to the government with the Canadian Bar Association on what express entry was going to look like. And when it was launched, I think at least twice in the last 6 years or 7 years, how long it's been, I've been invited to be an actual panel member on the express entry panel. And since that time, it's become my life. And repeatedly, over and over and over, I get consultations from people who've made simple mistakes that have cost them. And sometimes the damage is irreparable. You just can't fix it, especially when age happens. You have a birthday, your score goes down, and you may never get another shot again. And so that's why I created the course. That's why I started doing the first EE Live Q&As. And that's where it all started. Then I shifted to immigration generally to answer Q&As. But the express entry course at a fraction of the cost. I teach you everything that I know so that you are prepared to do the very, very best you can to submit an application that's going to get approved. And and there's so much free information out there, but my goodness, you guys, the course covers comprehensively everything that you need to know. So, and then I'm there to answer the questions that somehow may be really unique or specific to you that I can't answer here in the live Q&A. And so this live general one, I always ring the bell if someone asks a question that really is so specific. So, all right, zipping down here. All right, let's, okay. What's next? Okay. Hi, Mark. Do we need to inform IRCC about a one-time appendix surgery after EAPR? Want to clarify. Thank you. With the medical stuff, you've already obtained your immigration medical. And when it comes to an appendix surgery, that's not something usually that I worry about. In the context of immigration, it's the medical officers that are doing the immigration medicals. And if something has happened in between that would change the diagnosis, then yes. But if you had your appendix taken out, that's not something that would impact on your admissibility to Canada, unless there were some complications or things like that then resulted in you needing ongoing care. But yeah, that in the context of your work permit, where you're paying taxes and you're paying, your healthcare premiums, you're entitled to have that surgery, and it's not an issue. Now, you haven't indicated if you're in Canada or outside. I'm assuming you're probably in Canada. But no, at this stage, there isn't an obligation to go back and get another medical done, I guess is the state. I guess that's how I describe it. You know, with these medical issues, it's always, if there's something that would result in, something that would cause a drain on Canadian health or social services, long term, then yes, absolutely, you have an obligation. If you're recently, for example, let's say you're recently diagnosed with cancer and you'd have to go through cancer treatments, I think that's something that you would need to disclose and seek direction from IRCC. At the end of the day, you're never ever going to be harmed from disclosing. And if you're in a situation where you're uncertain, then you do err on the side of disclosing. But you know, an appendix surgery, obviously it's hard for me to answer with just that, but you know, that surgery, once it's completed, it's usually there isn't anything more that happens with it. But if you want, I'm going to tell you I'm going to ring the bell here, Miss R, and recommend that you book a consult. And then I can look into things a little bit more a little bit more in more detail, and provide you with some actual legal advice. But at this stage, when it comes to a one-time appendix surgery, after EAPR, it's really hard to say. If you wanted to disclose, you could, but I don't think it would result in any form of medical inadmissibility. Okay, moving on. Olivia says, why are some people waiting for eCorp after portal for more than 2 months? Because the eCorp portal is a freaking nightmare. It is a disaster. It is sending out notifications to individuals multiple times. They respond in it, and then they keep getting the same requests. And then when people try to upload information, it's not getting added to the file. And then files are even sometimes being refused, and dependents are being triggered to give basically they're being triggered to give information as if they live in Canada when they don't. It's a disaster, Olivia. That's all I can say is, and my heart goes out to you and everyone that's trying to do that landing process. You know, they've cut representatives out of that process and do it directly with individuals. One thing I want to tell all of you, if you are represented by counsel, immigration lawyer, consultant, and you get any email from them to set up your final portal and do the landing, please, please do not do that yourself without seeking advice and direction, because so many people have made mistakes and then you can't correct it. And it's just been a horrible situation. Immigration thinks they're being smart by doing it, but they're stupid. They should not be doing that. The reality is there's so much complexity involved with the final landing process. To then cut counsel out at the last stages, I've got huge issues with that. And now it's starting to manifest itself. So Olivia, you're in the same situation as many people. Okay. Okay. So I'll answer this question. I'll address it because it's a very, very massive one. I'll do my best to answer it. In the call yesterday, I would say that 1/3 of the questions that were being asked to the temporary resident folks were all about the problems with students. And those of you who have applications, I'll just say this generally, that are in the queue and you're waiting and hoping to somehow make it to September. Obviously, we're already into September, so you've probably missed that deadline, but there was no guarantee after that deadline that they said, I think in May, where they said if you submitted before May, we would guarantee it being processed. But after that, there's no guarantees. And they had no excuse. Like they did just basically said, we're sorry, but it just is the way that it is. And there's not even a guarantee that you're going to get your study permit for the January intake. They haven't held out any guarantees, and they just said it's just too bad, so sad. Okay, now let me take a look at the actual Malik's question. So why those students who have received approval in principle on the basis of eligibility got refused after attending one-year online classes on the basis of eligibility, as they have already passed their eligibility before? The initial assessment was not one of finalization. And I warned people of this last year. When I saw this happening, I said I would never advise someone to go spend thousands of dollars to attend virtually study in Canada with no guarantee that your study permit can be approved. I said this, and now it's all coming to fruition. And yes, there might be some class action lawsuits out there against immigration because I think it's cruel. I think it's very cruel to say, yep, you've got approval in principle and then refuse your study permit. So stay tuned. And I think there's huge issues that immigration has, the department has, with these refusals, because I think it's cruel to have led people on in that situation. So stay tuned, Shivpreet. And also, I direct you guys to Will Tao, because he's been right on top of these issues. And Will is in Vancouver, one of my good friends. Okay, I'll answer a couple more questions, then we'll wrap it up for today. Okay. Let's see here. There's lots of questions about why is it taking so long. Okay. Reluctant fundamentalist is Kapil. Hello. Okay. Yeah, and there's lots of people asking, why are the AORs not being processed? Okay, I'll finish off with this one from Panday. Apurba. Okay, hi Mark. I know that you do not recommend to leave Canada when under TR to PR process. However, I do have an emergency to leave Canada for a family member surgery. I'm going to ring the bell right here, and I'm going to recommend that you go over to our website right here and click on Speak to a Lawyer and book a consultation with me, and let's talk about this one-to-one, my friend, because the decision to leave has lots of volatility to it. And when it's a family emergency, family is first. And sometimes you have to do what you have to do regardless. But I recommend you book a consult when we can talk about it, and then we can assess properly the risk as I look at everything holistically. All right, so there we go, you guys. We're gonna wrap this up here. It's 11:07 right now. We're into overtime a bit. I'm going to try to jump on and do more live Q&As, release more videos. I'm working right now on expanding. As you can see here, I'm going to go back to the main screen. The Canadian Immigration Institute is the location where we house all of our courses. And so right now, if you click on CR courses, it'll take you to the TR to PR pathway. That one is still live, express entry. Today's the last day when it comes to, I'll turn that down a little bit. The last day to get registered into the course and benefit from everything that's in that one. You'll see here coming soon is the spousal sponsorship course. Many of you are considering at least Outland candidates who've maybe had their applications approved, or once they start to get applications processing again, will be considering leaving their spouses off and then sponsoring them after. That's what this course is going to be geared towards, anyone who's looking to sponsor a spouse. And then also we have the LMIA course that is live right now that you can subscribe to for individuals, companies that are looking to hire high wage positions. And we're also working on the PR card renewal for those of my past clients who have been around for 5 years and now they're at the stage where they're ready to extend their PR cards. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. It was another great live Q&A. As you can see, it was really hard to get to everybody's question. And I see here, I'm just gonna see if I can locate it here. Just bear with me. Sometimes the super chat works and sometimes it doesn't. And I know some people, let's see, the notification for the super chat, I'm just trying to find it here. So they don't want anyone to miss out if they did use the super chat. So just give me a second here. I'm just scrolling through. There were so many questions this time that I wasn't able to get to everybody. Hopefully a lot of you asked similar questions, but I'm just scrolling through to see if I can find, because I don't want to miss out on any super chats because I didn't see one come through. Let's see here. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. So here's one. All right. So, that's hilarious. I have no clue what that was. Okay. Well, that one didn't help anything. That's hilarious. Why would someone... That is so awesome. Okay, well, I don't know why someone would pay money to get that on there, but hey, more power to you, I guess. There you go. Okay, Akhtar, we'll just address his. Mark, how are you? Tip for my friend's consultant with Marcus Worth. You guys, geez, feel stressed less after the call. I'm a big example of that. Akhtar, thank you so much. So Akhtar is talking about just the tips and things that I gave in his consult essentially, and within the course. So thanks, I really appreciate that. Okay, let's scroll down here because I really don't want to miss anyone. Obviously, that provided a super chat. Okay, here we go. How long does the proof of funds have to be there in the account? Okay, proof of funds, when you file your EAPR, it needs to be there, absolutely. And technically, I always advise my clients that you want it to be there all the way through until the application is processed. However, the other times when it needs to be there are at any point in time throughout the processing of immigration asks for an update for your funds, then those funds need to be there. And the challenge is you never know when that might happen. And then the other final time is when you complete landing and you're appearing at the border with the officer, then I'll always include an updated bank statement to prove settlement funds. So Reshmi, that's essentially how at the beginning when you file your EAPR, and I know some of you have been languishing for a long time and those funds go up and down, there's currency fluctuations. The reality is I always make sure that I have those funds topped up so that they're at the level that the minimum requirement for settlement funds associated with the express entry or whatever TR to PR, whatever process you're going, well, not TR to PR, the express entry FSW. And so how long do they have to be in the account before you submit your application? Immigration says they want to go back 6 months and see the average balance in your account for 6 months, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have the whole amount in there for the whole 6 months. If it shows that you are slowly putting savings in and then all the way up to the last day before you submit your EAPR, and you've got a bank statement that says you've got made one final, wage deposit that puts you up over the minimum amount, that's totally fine too. Some people also get gift deeds from their family like a week before they file their EAPR, and that's totally fine too. So both sides, I think I covered the whole aspect leading up to and after. That was a good question, Reshmi. Well worth the super chat. And then we'll just hit into here. Scrolling down. Okay, here we go. Asmeet. Okay, long time. Would I have to redo my medicals if my COPR doesn't complete within a year of the AOR? Everyone go get the course. I vouch for it. Okay, Amit. So it really comes down to where you're at. So if you're outside of Canada, there's a chance that before you land, immigration requires you to go and do another medical. It's possible. In Canada, they have a tendency or a greater tendency to waive it or extend it. But when you're outside of Canada, I have seen a lot of clients that are being requested to obtain a new medical. All right. Thanks, Amit. I appreciate that. And, even these little amounts are really, really helpful for me as I'm doing this. So I got it, Amit. I got it. Okay. There we go, guys. Thanks so much. And once again, thanks for joining. Every Wednesday at 10, I will try to be here, especially now that I have a lot more time on my hands, and you'll see a lot more videos getting posted, and not only live streams, but I'm also going to be continuing with posting videos that are targeted to specific aspects of all kinds of immigration programming. I want to also point out to one last thing here within the YouTube channel. If you go, and YouTube tends to be the channel where I can actually store a lot of the information that I want. But if you go here, you will see the last videos are all contained here. And you definitely want to go back and check out Alicia's spousal sponsorship with me. We did one on eligibility, which in principle seems pretty simple, but in reality, it's not complex at all. And as always, when I ring that bell and I push you guys over to our website, if you have a question, you didn't get it answered, please go over here and book a consult with one of us. We are more than delighted to help you. And trust me, in a very short consult, we can often resolve problems that can really make or break your application. And ultimately, you may decide to, if you click on our approach right here, you may decide to engage us and hire our firm to help you with a collaborative review. And this collaborative review approach is something that we take great pride in. It's different than most firms, how they represent clients, but we work hand in hand with you to make sure the application is correct. And you work directly with the lawyers in our firm, myself, Alicia, Susan, through a screen share, whether it's Zoom or Teams or whatever it might be. But we work collaboratively together, and you can go to the website to learn all about it. Okay. And there's a bunch of information on that process, and everything starts with a consult. And then we transition, if it's a good fit for both people, into our total peace of mind option. All right. Thanks so much, guys. We're going to wrap this one up. It was a pleasure to be with you. And thanks for all the great questions. And thanks for those that gave out the super chats. And we will see you guys all next week for sure. Same time, same place, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, right here on the Facebook, Express Entry Law, the Canadian Immigration Institute pages, as well as YouTube, the Canadian Immigration Institute channel. All right, guys, take care. We will see you later.